Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Female Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Krista Gurka, and we have another guest episode that is going to round out Marketing Month, which is really exciting. I love Marketing Month. And also, technically, she's the one that also edits all of my videos and my podcast. So she's listened to my voice over and over and over and over and over again. So Courtney Moody is here. She is a virtual assistant that I've been working with for, I don't know, maybe
A
a year.
year.
A year?
Yeah.
Yeah, time flies. But she's also an expert in ads, like Facebook and marketing. And so she's been doing some of the ads for the people in our mentorship groups, and they've had fabulous things to say. So I thought in part of our marketing month, let's have you come on and talk about ads. So will you, Courtney, introduce yourself to the audience and let them know kind of like, how did you get to doing what you're doing today?
So it's funny, my dad calls me like a person of the internet because I graduated from college in 2008 when like blogging was like people sitting in their room, like reviewing makeup and stuff. And so I kind of just like am part of that like millennial generation that grew up with social media, not having it since we were little, but like evolved with it. And so my first jobs out of college were in traditional marketing. So we were doing a lot of like hard copy white papers and like radio ads and billboards and stuff like that, and kind of just like evolving through digital marketing with it. And then I remember at my very first job out of college, I was like, you guys really need a blog. Like, you really need to be on social media. And they're like, why are we going to be on Facebook? What are we going to do on Facebook? And I was like, no, like, I promise, like, it's the future. Like, you have to be there.
It's the
Um,
future.
yeah, I was like, no, it's going to be huge, I swear. And so I kind of just started learning about digital marketing like as everything was coming up. And eventually I also started like freelancing. So I was working at a community, not, it's not a community college. It like used to be a community college and now they're like a real college with like master's degree programs. It's like a trade
Mm.
school around here. And I was working in their marketing department, and my boss there would actually be like, hey, my friend has a small business and they need someone to do their blogs. They need someone to do their emails. They need someone to do like this, that, and the other. So I started freelancing. And by 2016, I had so much freelance work that I was like, well, this is going to be my full-time job now instead of working in-house somewhere. And I kind of just am self-taught in that regard. I was a history major with like a communications minor. But I just kind of like learned digital marketing as I went. And then I've become certified in like Google Ads, HubSpot inbound marketing, like all this other stuff that digital
Mhm.
marketing people get certified in. So I kind of just fell into it, I guess, is the short answer.
Yeah, I think a lot of people fall into marketing, to be honest. I think
Yeah.
I was just the episode that just aired today with at the time of this recording, it's Tuesday, February 4th. And so the episode that aired today with Connie, who does
Mhm.
website design and technically, I guess, marketing and website design, she
Mhm.
was like, I used to be an Air Force pilot.
Right.
And like that's like I was like, wait. You kind of just yada yada over that. Like, how is that? That's bizarre. But I think a lot of people, because the digital space especially is ever changing, and you can learn a lot of these things. So if someone has the ability to learn and is interested in learning how to like inbound marketing, is interested in learning
Mhm.
how to use HubSpot, or now I think the next big thing is kids in college, if you're listening, you should learn all about AI. Like you should
Yeah.
learn how that works, how you can manipulate it, how you can impact with it, because that is going to be part of our future. And I think when you have individuals that are able to iterate and then see a need, people kind of like they say, like, I just fell into it, but it's kind of like you took a path where like I'll teach myself and then I'll help some people and then I'll teach myself some more
Mhm.
and I'll help some more people and I'll teach myself some more. So far in marketing month, we've had Connie talk about websites, which I think has to be kind of number one because we've talked about this also. Like if you have an ad that's going to a shitty website, Like that's inviting a really important person to your house for dinner and you don't clean up. Like it's just a shit show,
Right.
right? So website's important. Then I talked about really the different types of marketing, right? Organic marketing, earned marketing, and paid marketing, right?
Hmm.
Today, we're going to focus primarily on paid marketing.
Hmm.
So, can you talk a little bit about how ads and how you specifically use ads to help businesses? And like, I'm sure their goals are all different, right? So I'm a business, I'm coming to you and I'm like, I don't know, somebody told me to start doing Facebook and Google ads. I have no idea what I'm doing, right?
Hmm.
How would you start to discuss with them what ads can do and get them to kind of understand or help decipher what their goal actually is with the ads?
Right. So one of the things that I kind of like lays the foundation or like helps me set the foundation for a client is, are they an established business that is looking to grow, or are they a new business that has not had a single client walk in the door because nobody's ever heard of them before because their doors don't even open for 2 weeks? So are we going for like strictly brand awareness? Are we trying to scale? Are we an established business who needs to like ramp up very quickly, or we can only take like two new patients a month, but we're just trying to like stay steady? So there's a lot of information that you kind of need to figure out, like, okay, how's this strategy going to go? Like, are we going like just gung ho, like as fast as we can, as much as we can, or are we just trying to maintain a presence?
Mhm.
Because one of the things I think a lot of companies do, especially with paid ads, is they get nervous and they're like, I don't want to spend a lot of money on this forever. And it's like, well, right, you don't have to spend a lot of money forever, but consistency in marketing, especially digital marketing, but even like traditional marketing, is so important, because the second you're no longer visible, somebody else is going to take your spot and they're going to take your brand awareness. So one of the things we try to figure out is like, what's the goal? Are we just getting your name out there? Are we putting up a digital billboard? Or are we trying to get a foot in the door? And I'm going to use the analogy, I'm gonna do it. So we've got we've got two options. You can be generating brand awareness, so putting a billboard on the highway so that people drive by it whether they need you or not, but they drive by your digital billboard and they're like, "Oh, right, cool, a Pilates studio. I should check that out." And then in 6 months, when they're ready for Pilates, or when they're looking for a physical therapist because they threw their back out shoveling snow or something like that, they're like, oh, right, I remember seeing that ad somewhere. Let me like start there. Um, so that's your digital billboard. And then we've got your digital phone book, your yellow pages,
Mhm.
where somebody is actively like, oh no, I threw my back out yesterday. I need to get in to see somebody. And they just search for like physical therapy near me. Or, somebody's like, hey, I've got like, I need to get more flexible. Like I'm not feeling like good about myself. I want to lose a little bit of weight. I need to find myself a dietitian, Pilates instructor, gym, like whatever the case may be. And they're searching like gym near me, personal trainer near me, whatever it is. And so those people are like actively ready to do something. The digital billboard folks are just looking for, they're
Mhm.
not really looking. They're just like storing it in the back of their mind. And so what you need to know as a business is, are you looking for the brand awareness so that someone thinks of you later? Or do you need to fill a spot right now and you need someone searching for you like right away? And then from there, we start looking at, what's your budget look like? Um, how much are we going to be spending on this month over month, and even day over day? Because on Facebook and, or on Meta rather, and on Google, you set your daily budget and you set a lifetime budget. Um, and then other things like, are you doing promotions? Like, is there a new member special that only runs from now until March? Or is there a new member special that you run all year long and it's technically an evergreen special and you want any new member to see it? Are you running some sort of like 10-year anniversary promo where this is only good for 2 weeks or something like that? So do we have like a fluctuating budget? And just all these things that on the face of it, like they're not complicated questions, but there's like a lot that goes into like building the strategy. And then also like, how comprehensive do you want your strategy to be? Because you can run a paid Facebook ad, but if you don't have organic Facebook and somebody
Mhm.
clicks from your ad into your profile and they see nothing, or they see something that's 5 years old, or they see something that doesn't look great, just as important as your website not looking great, they're going to be like, oh, is this legit? Is this a scam?
Mhm.
Like, what's happening here? So, sure, you can throw money at your ads, but you kind of have to have a good website. You've got to have a good, like, organic profile. If you're asking someone to fill out a form, like a lead gen form, is the thing you're asking them to fill it out for worth it? Because nobody wants to sign up for another newsletter from every single company on the internet. Like, people are
Yeah.
so hesitant at this point to sign up for something. So you've got to make sure your lead form is providing them something of value. Is it a free class? Is it, a PDF that's like 10 exercises for back pain that someone can be like, okay, let me try these like right now, or like, 5 tips for like postpartum healing or something like that. Like, it has
Yep.
to be relevant to your audience, but it's got to be something that somebody will find immediate value in, not just like, hey, sign up for my newsletter. And people are like,
Yeah.
no, why? Like, I don't know
Nobody
you.
wants
I don't
that.
want your newsletter yet. Like, they will
Nobody
down the
wants that.
line, but nobody wants it right now.
Yeah.
So, a
Well,
lot of
and so what
stuff.
I'm hearing, which I love, because we coach this in our programs, is it's not just one thing. It's a strategy that's
Yeah.
like all encompassing. So,
Hmm.
um, and I think the mistake business owners make, and I think all business owners, by the way, not just in our industry, but they're like, oh, I need more people in the door. I need more paying clients. So I have to do some marketing. So I'm just going to do some ads. And they don't really
Hmm.
know what they're doing. They don't really, they're like, okay, I guess I'll just boost an ad on Facebook,
Hmm.
right? So if someone, let's first talk to like the newbie business owner and not necessarily like newly opened, but someone who really has not done marketing before. Usually they're going to be very budget conscious, I would
Hmm.
imagine, right? Um, so what are the kind of things you recommend that that business owner has or collects or understands prior to running paid ads?
So I think the number one thing that I tell all my clients, regardless of what stage of business they're at, is while organic content, so from your social media to your blogs to your website content, like that is a slow, slow burn.
Mhm.
Like, expect it to take 6 months before you really see like any uptick in anything. That's a slow burn. Paid is faster, but it's not immediate necessarily. Like, you're not
Mhm.
going to turn your ad on and tomorrow you're going to have a line around the block.
Right.
You might, depending on like what your niche is and stuff like that. But typically, like, you've still got to give it some ramp up time. You've still got to give it like a couple months for people to see an ad and do their due diligence. Unless it's like a very immediate time sensitive thing. Like, again, like someone threw their back out yesterday and they're like, oh my God, like I need to get in there right now. And they don't really care who they see. They're trying to get into the first available time slot they can find. But a lot of people, they'll see an ad, they might make a phone call, they might write it down on a list. So I think that's the biggest thing is like, just be aware. It's not a
Mhm.
magic bullet. It's a lot quicker, a
Yeah.
lot quicker, but it's not like magic bullet because people will run ads and then they're like, oh, this isn't working. And they stop. And it's like, no, you just lost all your momentum. Like, we were doing so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Um,
Someone
the
also
second,
told me once that paid ads are like Viagra and sex. So like it'll make you able to have sex, but it's not going to make you better in bed. So in other words, if your
that's such
organic
a good,
stuff is, yeah,
that's so good.
she's like, I was like, that's a great analogy. So if your organic stuff is not engaging with people that are already in your stratosphere, like putting money behind it is
Right.
not necessarily going to make that better, right? So what I would think, and I think you're saying it too, like you have to have some organic presence and then some
Mhm.
organic has to be working, right?
Yeah,
So
for
you kind
sure.
of have to have an organic presence. And that means, are you getting clicks to your website? Are you at least being consistent on social media? And are you getting some engagement with like a like or a comment or a share?
Hmm.
Do you have product market fit? Is what you're selling to who you're selling to converting? Okay.
Right.
And then once you have all those and those are working, then you're like, I need to do this faster, or I need to do this at a larger, what would you say, like impact, get more eyeballs
Hmm.
on my stuff. that's when I feel that ads would work. And I think what
Yeah.
happens is some businesses, and I'm sure they come to you this way, and they're like the same, just what you said, like, oh, I'm going to do ads, but they don't really know who their ideal customer is. They're not really sure who they're buying for. Their website looks like shit.
Hmm.
And then they throw money at it and then they're like, oh, ads didn't work. Well, it's not that the ads didn't work, like the strategy you were using didn't work,
Right.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And there's so many times when I'll, I don't want to say like so many times, but like I'll work with a client. We'll get like their targeting, we get it on point, right? Like they have enough of like a handle on their target audience that we can easily target their ads. We have their messaging down point on point on the ads where we know what we want to say, we know what people are looking for. We've got our keywords down, our graphics look great. So we're getting the clicks and they're like, well, no one converted. And it's like,
right,
well, your form was incredibly hard to find. Or,
right,
well, you didn't give them a reason to click. Like your form just says sign up now. And they're like, sign up for what? Like, what am I
right.
signing up for? So you have to kind of look at that whole funnel and be like, okay. And again, like going back to like the organic social, did they click into your profile and they couldn't tell if you're actually still in business and this is just like an outdated ad because you haven't actually posted in 3 months and they're like, what's going on here?
Right.
Um, so making sure that like everything across the board is like, again, like consistent, but it doesn't have to be like you're posting every day, 5 times a day, and you got a new reel twice a day or whatever. Like once a week, like you have a new organic post once a week. Your landing page we're sending them to matches the content in the ad. So if you are saying, and actually one of our mutual clients, we had this kind of like panic moment last week where the ad content was all about a promotion that she's running. And then I looked at my spreadsheet and I was like, the ads are going to here. And I was like, wait, are these going to the wrong spot? Like, is this why we're having a huge problem? They weren't, they were going to the right spot. But it was that moment of like, wait, if someone's reading this ad
Yeah.
and they're going to the wrong page, they're going to be like, where
Of
did I
course they're
just
not going to
go?
convert.
Like, yeah, like what just happened? Where did I just
Yeah.
land? Um, and that was just like I hadn't updated my spreadsheet. So we were good there. They were going to the right spot. But we both had this moment of panic of like, oh my gosh, what a waste of a week of running the ads to the wrong place. Um, so just making sure that like when someone reads an ad, the place that they land makes sense. Like they're landing on the information that they're requesting, as opposed to just like sometimes people send them just like a general contact page. And it's like,
Hmm.
well, if they were looking specifically about like lower back pain, they
Hmm.
probably want to land on a page talking about lower back pain, not just a
Yeah.
generic contact me page, because why would they contact you without any further
Information.
information about like what you're doing? Um,
Yeah. And it should also be, we say this the same, like it should be, your ad should go to a unique URL. So
mhm,
even if you want to send them to the homepage, like we wouldn't recommend that, but even if you want to send to the homepage, at least the homepage is a duplicate of the actual homepage so you can track that it's just ad people going to that page, right?
right.
Because one of our mutual clients also, what was happening was they were, her ad stuff, she's like, oh, look how many people, their ad company was saying, look how many people are landing on this page. And I was like, I know, but that's the same homepage. Like you're sending them to the master homepage. So like, of course it has a lot of clicks, but you can't tell that all of those are coming from the ad itself. Some of that can be coming from organic search. Some of that can be coming from, so it's really important to understand this whole process, I
Mhm.
think, and working with an expert is, you hope that the expert is understands that. And that's why I think as business owners it's important that we know enough to ask the right questions.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people will come to me and they've been working with a company that's charging like 3 times as much as I'm charging them. And they're like, I have no idea what they've been doing. Like they
Yeah.
give me a report at the end of the month that says like, I had 100 clicks and they're like, I don't know, like clicks
What
to
does that
where,
mean?
clicks to what is the ad? So many people are like, I don't even know what my ads say. Cause I like a lot of people, I don't know what Google and Meta are doing, but like their platforms are not user friendly. They're really hard
Oh,
to navigate if you're not in there like all the time.
yeah.
And so a lot of business owners, someone sets up their ads for them and they're like, I don't even
Never
know how
know.
to find what this looks like. Like, what am I showing people? And they have no idea. And then they've got someone charging them again, like 3 or 4 times what I'm charging them. And they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what's happening. And so
Hmm.
I'm really big, and you've like seen the reports that I give people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really big on the transparency of like, here's the breakdown of like every keyword, every location, every ad set. Like there's no like because people are spending their money and I want them to trust me that I
Yeah,
know what I'm doing with their money, but also I can't fix it if I don't know what the heck the problem is. Like
right.
if I'm not in tune enough with like, oh well, all your location targeting is off. Like it's going to people who are 45 miles away from you. So of course they're not going to convert. Like I can't
And
fix
for
that if I
brick
don't
and
know
mortar
it.
businesses, that's really important. Like an
Oh yeah.
online business is different, I think. Like online
For
business
sure.
ads stuff is different than brick and mortar. Like brick and mortar is very location specific. And depending on
Hmm.
location, like in Manhattan, people will go like 3 blocks and that's it. Whereas maybe in like Sioux Falls, South Dakota, they'll go like 15 miles. Right.
Right.
So I think it's
Yeah,
also important
here
to understand. Yeah.
yeah, like here so I live like in Massachusetts, right on the Rhode Island border. And like if I have to cross a bridge to get to you, and
Mhm.
like the bridge is 3 miles away from my house, but like I'm not going over that bridge. Like I need to
Right.
find somewhere on this side of the bridge because I'm
Yeah.
not going over there. And one of our clients, yours and my mutual clients, we just did all of her targeting. She lives in a pretty big city in Texas. And we just adjusted all of her targeting by zip code to only target half the city because there are certain areas of the city that just aren't necessarily the right like income demographic. Like her
Yeah.
services will just be too expensive,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
For sure.
And it doesn't make sense to spend the money targeting places where that's not the target audience. Like she
You're
knows it's not the
absolutely
target
right.
audience. She's like, none of my clients come from there. There's other places on that side of the city that more meet their needs. I don't want to be wasting money there. So we just targeted by zip code for half the
Yeah.
city. And it might decrease her impressions a little bit,
But it's
but
okay. They're more
it's such a
qualified.
better audience, right? It's a
Mhm.
more qualified audience. We're not wasting money.
Yeah.
Um, and I wouldn't be able to know that if A, she and I weren't in constant contact about stuff, but B, if I wasn't looking at her location list and her like showing her the locations it's targeting and her being able to say like, oh, that neighborhood's like not a good fit for me.
Right.
And she only knows that because I'm showing her this list because we're on the same team. Like I'm not trying to
Right.
like I don't like businesses that are like, well, I'll just take their money and I'll just like do stuff like behind the scenes and they make it seem I've worked with like a lot of people and I've heard a lot of stories of people who like yes, Google ads and Facebook ads is complicated, but it's not impossible and it's not rocket science. And if
Mhm.
anybody tells you like you could never do it yourself, that's not true.
No, that's not
Like
true.
you might not have
That's
the
not true.
time to do it, you might have the desire to do it, but there's nothing so complicated that your Google Ads person should not be able to very easily explain to you
And show you.
what they're seeing and why they're making an adjustment or why they're leaving something. Like sometimes I tell clients, like, we're not going to touch that. Like, I know it doesn't look right, but like, we're going to let it play out because of XYZ reason. But if you're working with somebody who just won't tell you, or they're just like, oh, like, it's just really complicated,
Totally
I
agree.
wouldn't keep working with
Totally
that
agree.
person.
And I think business, that's why we're doing these like podcast episodes, because I think I don't necessarily recommend, unless you love it, to do your own ads, unless you're really good at it and this is what you do. I mean, I though believe that it's important for me to know enough that I can ask the person doing my ads, AKA you, like, hey, this doesn't seem right or this seems odd. And I think what's helpful too is when we have clients that we share, I can give some support in terms of the strategy of
Mhm.
why don't we start with this messaging or this creative work might work a little bit better. And then you can tell me from the ad perspective side, like, okay, let's do this type of ad. So,
Right.
one of the things I'd love to talk about now, like, let's talk specifically Meta. A lot of people don't want to do ads because it seems very confusing. And also, they change it all the time. That's a big thing with me, too. So, like, I go in
Absolutely.
there and I'm like, oh, I knew how to do them. I know how to look at my metrics. And all of a sudden, I'll go in there one day and I'm like, what? Like, it's
Yeah.
different, right? So, can we talk in terms of like from the top bottom, right? So, if you talk about the top, I guess the first thing is you set your campaign
Mhm.
objective. So, can
Yep.
you discuss like the different types of campaign objectives and then what you usually see or recommend when you're working with brick and mortar service-based businesses?
Sure. So there's a couple different campaign objectives, but they're across Google or Facebook. It's like pretty much the same idea. Are you looking for traffic slash like brand awareness, traffic to your website, not traffic
Okay.
like in your door, traffic to your website. So
I
brand
think that's a
awareness.
good distinction because people think of traffic as,
Mhm.
do you want people
Like
in your
foot
doors? And
traffic.
that's not actually what Meta is saying.
Right. Yeah. So when you see traffic on Meta or um, on on Google, they actually make it a little bit simpler to explain to understand. But on Meta, traffic means traffic to your website, page views. It could also mean traffic to your Facebook page itself. But that's like a different type of campaign that they don't really let you run as much anymore. Um, so traffic to your website, brand awareness. Or are you looking for conversions? Are you looking for someone to fill out a form, make a purchase, book an appointment, like take some sort of
Take an
like
action.
action that will generate revenue
Got
potentially? Not always. Filling out a form doesn't always generate revenue, but like if you get someone on your email list, you're one step closer. Um, so those are your two basic objectives. Facebook also lets you do things like you can call an objective something like chatting with someone through Messenger. So
Mhm.
if you've got chatbots set up, you can have somebody like ask a question and you can do that. It's not so much for like brick and mortar, especially small businesses. You probably don't want a chatbot like talking to somebody on your behalf all the time because they're going to a small business because they would like a person in real life, especially brick and mortar. Like they want a human being. So those are your two options, leads, traffic. From there, and some people are like, start with conversions, right? Like get those leads right in the door. When you
Mhm.
run your first campaign, do a conversion campaign. And on Google, they have like maximize clicks or maximize conversions. Facebook, it's a leads campaign or a traffic campaign. And some people are like, let's go right for it. Let's go right for the lead. And if you have enough data and you've got enough web page visitors, like organic traffic, if you've got a very large customer list that you can upload for like lookalike audiences
Totally.
and customer matching, that's it. You can probably start there. But I tend to always tell my clients, start with maximizing clicks or start with traffic campaigns. Train the algorithm about who the people are that you want clicking on your ad and going to your website. Once the algorithm has a better feel for your audience, then you can either side by side run a conversion campaign or you can switch the campaign to a conversion campaign if you don't want to be like running two. But if you just start with conversions, you're limiting what the algorithm will show because the
Mhm.
algorithm will only show it to someone they think is going to convert
To
on that
buy.
visit.
Right.
How many people are going to convert the first time they see an ad? Not very many. So it's better to start with those brand awareness traffic campaigns, the maximize clicks on Google, um, the traffic campaign on Meta, and then add to that. Either change it or add a campaign like in conjunction. Um, the other thing people get really excited about is retargeting campaigns because on the face of it, it's like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Let my ad, like, how many times have you looked up a pair of shoes and then you see those shoes forever on the internet until you finally cave and buy it because you're like, okay, I get it, like fine. Um, those are great for retail. A lot of times, so in the health and wellness space in general, hard to get a retargeting, like a good solid retargeting because of HIPAA
Mhm.
laws. So
Yeah.
like a lot of the conversion data that used to be trackable and like not even just conversion data, like web page visitor traffic
Yep.
data that used to be trackable is no longer being tracked by the various platforms because of HIPAA issues. So right there, Google's gonna have a hard time, and Facebook's gonna have a hard time like knowing who these people are in the
Right.
first place. The other thing about especially like a meta ad is they have this thing called frequency. So if your audience is targeted enough, especially in brick and mortar, where your geographic area is pretty limited, and you're targeting your audience based on an interest or a need, they're gonna see your ad multiple times anyway. Because as long as your budget allows, which even for like pretty short money, your budget will allow, um, Facebook like just kind of keeps showing your ad to people until it hits a certain threshold where it's like 5 to 7, where then
Mhm.
it like will shut your ad off because it
Yeah.
starts throttling it because it's like, okay, now people are sick of you, change your graphics. Um,
Yeah.
but you can get a lot of, it's not technically like a retargeting campaign, but for businesses where tracking is hard because of HIPAA, you're still getting a lot of eyes. Like if you look at your impressions and your impressions is usually like 2 or 3 times your reach
Yeah.
because it means each person in the reach saw your ad 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So that's like how to figure that out. And then also you can just turn on the frequency number in your little charts and it'll tell you like 4.7 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
think it's also, I think that's a great point too, because one of my beliefs in having run ads for a long time, our price point is pretty high. Like our price point for our services, Pilates, private pay physical therapy, it's high. There's not a whole lot of people that are buying $250 services from a Facebook ad.
right.
However, they are seeing the ad scrolling through their feed, right?
Mhm.
And just like you said, like a digital billboard, they'll be like, oh, yeah, you know what? I just had breakfast next to that place today. Like, because you're
Yep.
targeting a geographic area, okay? I just had breakfast next to that place. And then maybe they're in the grocery store and they see someone with your merch and your shirt on, which merchandise is also a type of marketing, right? So it's like one touch point because anywhere you read it can be anywhere from like 7 to 21 touch points someone needs to be
Yeah.
reminded of, right? So it's just one touch point. So I love that you say start with brand awareness. I love that. I think that's doable, right? And
Mhm.
then if you're going to have a special promotion per se, you've already got these people that you're like, hey, 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 like Pilates in the Grove, Pilates in the Grove. Oh, and by the way, now we have this stuff. So you're right, the
Right.
algorithm learns. We also, as the person running the ad, learn what's working, what's not working, right?
Right.
So if we take from campaign objective,
Hmm.
now the next thing we talk about is, correct me if I'm
The
wrong.
the
Do we go
audience is next.
the
Audience and
audience? Yeah.
budget.
But is that in ad set yet, or do we still set that at the campaign level?
It's down at the ad set level.
Okay. So can you just explain campaign objective, ad set, and then ads, and then we'll kind of go into like audiences.
Yeah. So your campaign is like your overarching folder, right? So you're like, I'm running a campaign, like general brand awareness. Like a lot of people just call it like general brand
Yep.
awareness campaign. And my objective here is to get traffic. I'm just getting people to my website. Your ad set is one level below that. And that says, like, okay, what am I targeting here? Who are these like general brand awareness people that I'm trying to reach? How much am I willing to pay for this general brand awareness per day or per click or whatever? You can get really minute in like
Yeah,
how
really
you're
granular.
telling it to
Mhm.
spend your money. Um, and then your ad is the actual graphic itself. And you can have multiple ads within an ad set. So if you're targeting, like for some clients, like what we'll do is we've got the same ad,
Mhm.
but one has an orange background and one has a blue background and
Mhm.
one has a pink background. What one are people resonating with more? You can run like automatic A/B testing in Facebook. It'll like do it for you and turn things off automatically. Um, you can also run your own A/B testing where you're running multiple ads, testing out like, oh, you know what, this blue one is far and away doing better than the pink one. I'm going to turn off the pink one. Um, or you can run ads where maybe some of them are targeting like general brand awareness, right? So depending, I'm going to use like this might be a little too broad, but we're spitballing here. Um, you could do like one for Pilates, one for physical therapy, two
Correct.
ads in the same ad set with your same budget that's being split between the two ads. Again, might be a little bit too broad where like I would probably recommend you do one for your like a
Yep.
campaign for your Pilates, a campaign for your physical therapy. Um, but you can do them like that too, where your ads are unrelated except but for you're the same company. Um, and then you could see like that gives you the data of like, oh, what are people are way more into clicking on my Pilates ads than my physical
Yep.
therapy ads.
Yep.
But hey, maybe my physical therapy ads are what I'm really trying to grow. Like I'm really trying to grow the physical therapy side of my business. I'm going to turn off the Pilates ones, focus on the physical
Yeah.
therapy, all this stuff.
Or I look at it the other way sometimes, whereas it's like sometimes I think we get in our own way as business owners and we're like, no, but I want to be a physical therapist.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, the audience is telling you they're resonating with you as a Pilates studio. So
yep,
get them in as a Pilates studio and then you can sell them into physical therapy. Like you can
mhm,
go, I mean, it's like me as a physical therapist. Like if you had back pain, some people will be like, oh, I would start with her neck. And some people be like, I would start with her feet. Like it's, like in the end, we want the same thing, but as
Right.
long as you're measuring the same thing. So we have campaign objective is your overall, I want traffic to my website. Now your
Yep.
ad set, which is a next level, you can have multiple ad sets under the same campaign objective.
Yep.
And the ad set is telling, correct me if I'm wrong, is telling Meta who you want them, who you want them to feed those ads to. So
Yeah.
one ad set, let's say we're talking Pilates, right? Pilates in the Grove. One ad set could be an audience of people in a certain age group, right? With
Hmm.
certain interests in a certain
Hmm.
demographic. And
Yep.
maybe
In a
another
certain
ad set
location.
could be a different age group, right? And so that way the messaging for like who I'm going to, what the message I'm going to say to people in their 70s is going to be a little different than the message I'm going to say to people in their 20s. Am
Yep.
I correct or am I off base on this? Because I do get a little confused at the ad set level sometimes.
Nope. Yeah. So that's exactly it. You're telling the campaign who to target with the ad.
Okay.
So, Pilates in the Grove has two locations. I don't really know how
Yes,
close they
you're
are to
correct.
each other
Yeah.
because I'm nowhere near the warm weather of Florida.
They're like 5
But,
miles apart, but you'd be
oh, really?
surprised that people are like, yeah, I'm never going down to the Grove. So
They're like, no, thank you. Yeah. So,
they're
like, you
going,
could
they don't want to go
target
over the
it.
bridge. Like you said, they're not
Right.
going.
I understand their plight. Bridges, like, when I live in a small place, right? Like, Rhode Island, like, you can't get any smaller than Rhode Island. And we just don't want to travel far. We have
I hear
everything we
you.
need, like right here.
I hear you.
So yeah, so you could target one ad goes to what it's in the Grove, and then one is
Yeah, and
Flies in
South
the Grove,
Miami. So you could do
South Miami.
different,
Yeah,
correct. Okay. That's
yeah. Targeting
understandable.
by location, targeting, like you said, by age group, targeting by interests. Maybe somebody is interested in Pilates because it's like postpartum Pilates versus somebody who's looking to like they're using it for like athletic recovery, or maybe somebody's looking at it from just like a overall health and wellness. You can target like those interest areas.
So let's talk a
Um,
little bit about that because that does get confusing for people. I think audience selection is the most confusing thing for
mhm.
people that are doing their own ads, right? Because usually what happens too is on Facebook or Meta, I can't say Meta, I don't know why, but they're like, your audience is too small because
Yeah.
it is sometimes small. But like, so if I
Mhm.
want to target a Pilates person, like I want to target someone who has an interest in Pilates, but I want to target people that have an interest in Pilates and I'm trying to think of like what else maybe. And they're have an interest in mom. Like if I want to target a prenatal person, I'm going to do Pilates and like maternity. So they kind of like
Mhm.
overlap and like this Venn diagram kind of thing. Is
Yep.
that correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to think of like, obviously, like you're a Pilates studio, you want people who are interested in Pilates. That's like kind of a given. So a lot of people, like you said, like Facebook will be like, your audience is too narrow because a lot of people start trying to like niche down too much, right? They'll say, I only want people who are only interested in Pilates and who are first time moms.
Got it.
Okay. Well, what about if they're interested in health and wellness and they're a first time mom? Much bigger
Great.
range,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe they're not a first time mom. Maybe this is their third kid. So it's Pilates and parents, right?
Right.
Or Pilates and new parent. You can do new parent and it's like a broader demographic than first time moms. Um, but people try to niche down like a little too much. I always tell people start broad, right?
Mhm.
See if that's matching up. Like not so broad, right? Like not like everyone in the universe, but like especially for brick and mortar. Like online businesses, it's different because you have the entire world potentially as your audience.
Right.
Brick and mortar, you're already niching yourself down a lot because you're doing like the 5 mile radius
Right.
outside of your business. You're already like really closing the gap here. So you don't want to then start like, you can
Too much.
target like health and wellness and women.
Yep.
And that's probably going to like, that's going to cut your audience probably in half, definitely in half, right? You're only targeting women, but probably a quarter of women aren't would like actively say on Facebook they're interested in health and wellness.
Right.
But then the other things to consider are like, how do you get creative with health and wellness? Well, what if it's healthy cooking? What if it's people who are
Whole
interested in
Foods.
recipes, right? Like
Right.
the grocery store, Whole Foods, gardening, you know what
Yep.
I mean? Like things that are related to a healthy lifestyle, but
Correct.
just not necessarily someone who's only subscribing to Runner's World magazine and that's their only interest. Like,
They might not even know Pilates yet, but they're interested in a
right,
healthy lifestyle. And if
right,
then you're like looking for people that are interested in a healthy lifestyle.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that can help you targeting your audience, I'm getting like a little bit ahead, but like one of my clients, she's been running a specific set of ads. And we're noticing through her search results, so on the Google side of things,
Okay.
wow, your keywords are like strength and flexibility, not prenatal. It's not rehab and recovery from athletic injuries. People are looking for strength and flexibility. Okay,
Mhm.
so now let's look at your demographic targeting over there for your search keywords. Oh, look, it's mostly older people, not younger people. Like your idea of the audience you think you want to serve
Yeah.
might not be the audience that's looking for you. And that's a business decision, right? Like you might be like, but like I only want to focus on prenatal Pilates. That is all I want to do. That is my calling in life. I
Yeah.
don't care that a 75-year-old grandma who's trying to just, fight off osteoporosis is looking for me. But if you're willing to be flexible with your business plan,
Yeah.
if that's who's mostly searching for you, maybe you gotta make an adjustment
Yeah.
there. So when you've got the two things working side by side, you can start getting data that can be used in one place or another. So like we're reworking her ads because we're like,
I
hey, we need
love
to be
that.
including flexibility and strength in the headlines that you're using, in your graphics. They should say like, increase your flexibility, like healthy lifestyle. Like these are the things people are looking for. So we need to make sure we're like hitting them in the head with it because for all of our wonderful intents as people, nobody likes to do hard work. Nobody likes to
Right.
search and dig and be like, is this the thing I want? So if you can put it in your headline,
Well,
you can put it on
truthfully,
your
people
graphic.
aren't going to do it.
No.
It's instant gratification, right? Like people
Hmm.
won't even search. I mean, do you know, I think this is a perfect segue into like Google, but how low are people even looking on the Google page? Like people aren't going to page two of
No. If you're
searching.
on page two, like you don't
You might
exist.
as well be
Sorry.
off,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Like that's just like a
So,
courtesy invite. Like no one expects anyone to actually like
yeah,
participate.
right. I think, but first of all, I think that's so great that you said I will now look at to like Google and search words, and now let's compare it to what we're doing. Like it's optimizing what you're doing.
Hmm.
Because truthfully, what I've learned in ads is that we shouldn't just scrap the whole thing. Like we can find
Right.
where the kink in the chain is. We can find
Hmm.
where the problem is and fix the problem rather than just be like, oh, forget it, the whole ad sucks, right?
Right.
So,
Yep.
what are the main differences between Google ads and Meta ads?
So your meta ads are almost strictly brand awareness. Like you said before, people are not going on Facebook. There is a caveat to this, but people are not going on Facebook or Instagram to be like, where's the private pay physical therapy place? And how can I book my appointment there right now? Like, that's not what they're looking for on social media. They're not looking for anything necessarily on social media. They're doing their due diligence. They're getting an idea. They're getting a recommendation from their friends. They'll message their friend, hey, I hurt my back. Do you know of a good physical therapist? And their
Right.
friend will send them the link to your Facebook page and be like, oh, this is the place I go, which is why you want to make sure your organic profile is set up and everything is accurate and you have an active presence because that's where people will do their due diligence and research you to make sure you're legit. But nobody is searching for you
Right.
on social media.
Right.
They're just finding you by accident or they're getting referred to you.
It's literally like a billboard. They just happen
Yeah,
to be
it's
scrolling and you just pop into their
exactly.
feed, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're seeing things they're interested in. They're seeing things that Google with all of its or Facebook with all of its knowledge of everything we do has said, you look like the person who wants to go to Pilates let me show you this ad for Pilates in the Grove.
Right.
Um, Google, similar but different in that Google is looking, well, a Google search campaign means that you have actively sat down at your computer or picked up your phone and searched Pilates studio near me.
Okay.
And Google said, okay, you're looking for a Pilates studio near you. Here's the Pilates studios that match what I know about you. Because
Mhm.
without you having to say prenatal Pilates classes near me, Google knows that yesterday you were on thebump.com and the day before you were doing your baby registry on Amazon. And the day before that, you were looking up cribs and baby names. And so Google goes, oh, hey, this place is a prenatal Pilates studio. Let me show you their ad up here. And so the creepy amount of information that Google has about us. And Google also has like our email information. If
Mhm.
you're a Gmail user, like they know what email lists you've signed up for. They know the things you count as spam and the things you don't count as spam. They know
Yep.
what you unsubscribed from recently.
They know what
Um,
videos you watch on YouTube.
yeah, like Google, between Google and Facebook, they literally know more about you than you know about you because what they do, it's like
Totally.
really creepy. But like what Google does, their algorithm's like biggest thing is intent. It knows the intent of what you're actually looking for if you didn't actually look for it. Which is why sometimes like you see an ad for something and you're like, "Oh my God, they're listening to me."
Mhm.
They're not, supposedly. Like they swear up and down they're not. It's because they know every other thing you've looked at and every other thing you've clicked on and every other thing you've like found interesting to the point where they're like, she doesn't know she wants this rug yet, but I'm going to show it
But
to
she
her because she
does.
does. And like, it's so weird. And they swear they're not listening. I think they've been sued about it a couple times and they still
Yeah.
say they're not, but I don't believe them. Um, but they know our intent. And so with our intent, they're able to look at an ad from all the stuff we put into our ads on the back end and be like, this person's looking for this. I'm going to match them together. The things that it looks at when it's deciding if you match somebody's intent is not just your headlines,
Yeah.
not just your keywords. What's on your website? What it looks through your entire website and the landing page you've submitted to make sure you're the right match for this person because Google doesn't get paid unless people click, right? Like that's
Right.
how they're making their money. So they have to make sure it's in their best interest to show the ad because they won't make any money off of it.
Yeah.
So the difference is the search. Facebook is a billboard, just kind of like, hey, you might be interested in this thing because we know that your digital ecosphere is like generally interested in this stuff. But Google is you went actively looking for something and they're trying to like match make you to the best solution to your problem. So those are like the two biggest differences.
Great. And so are there softwares or platforms, like let's say people are just trying to learn like what are the best keywords, what are people searching for? They don't necessarily want to do ads yet, but they're like, let me try my organic presence with blog writing or
Mhm.
things on my website. Are there places that you use or recommend that you like Answer the Public is one that I like a lot. Are there other
Mhm.
ones that people could just generally use for blog titles and such?
So Answer the Public is a great one because it literally gives people like the who, where, what, when, and why of
Hmm.
like what people are searching as related to your search terms that you enter. Um, so I love that one. I also, you can do like Google Keyword Planner and Google like keyword searches, and you can have that generate. And also Google Trends is another like Google platform product that will tell you like what people are searching for, what the search volume is on a particular search term. One of the things that I like to do is I like to go into it probably doesn't matter. Sometimes I've done it like a comparison side by side of ChatGPT and Gemini, which is
Uh-huh.
Gemini is Google's
Yeah,
platform.
Google's one. Yeah.
And I will literally like put in the description of something and be like, what keywords would you give me for this? And I
Oh,
like to tell myself that Google's would be better for an ad for like a Google ad campaign because it's Google's own
because it's
platform.
Gemini. Yeah.
So like I like to think like it would be better, but if you actually look at the results side by side, they're always almost verbatim the exact same thing. It's like,
Really? Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know if like ChatGPT and Gemini like intersect somewhere or if it's just like that is the answer and
Well, I
so the
just
answer
think
is
that's
what
what
it
AI
is.
is. Like that's sometimes a problem with AI. So when I interviewed Lauren, who's going to be on the podcast next week, who's the marketing strategist, she was saying the problem with AI is that I can ask it something, you can ask it something, it'll spit out the same answer. And then
Right.
if each of us puts that on our website, people are like, wait,
Right.
that was the exact same thing that so and so had on their website. That seems weird, right? So
Hmm.
that's what she was saying too, in terms of like we got to be careful with
Hmm.
AI because it spits out sometimes, like you just said, verbatim. I'm still testing
Hmm.
Gemini. I'm not like not sure. So
Gemini is good because it gives you links. Like
yeah,
it'll give if you ask it like, can I have stats on like I use it more like a Google or like for like
okay,
in general, AI is good for like ideating, right? Like
yes,
give me 10 blog topics to talk about on this thing, or like give me 10 titles. And then it's like, okay, now
like
I have a blog title,
SEO
so now I can
optimized.
like,
Yeah,
right. It's not great for if that's the content, because it's going to be the same exact content as whatever's in the LMN and
yeah,
whatever is like on somebody else's website, because everything in ChatGPT and Gemini, it's
or
just
from
pulling from existing sites. So it's kind
yeah,
of just plagiarizing all over the
yeah,
place. But if you write your own thing and you ask it to expand it or make it more formal, like sometimes people write very casually, but they're trying to,
formalize
they
this.
need something more formal on their website, then it'll go and like clean it up for you.
Yeah,
Or you can like ask it for something and you can just use it as like a good starting point outline type of thing. Um, but I like to ask it for keywords because I'm
yeah.
like, you
I think
are
that's
the
smart.
brain of a search engine, so you
Yeah,
must know what the keywords
like
are.
the keywords are
Um, and and then from there, like you take those keywords, you put them into search, like the Google search keyword planner. You look at the search volume, you say like, okay, does this match? Is it right? Whatever. Health and wellness is tricky with keywords because you can't
yeah
advertise specific. You can, but like it's hard to do. You have to like work around it. Like you
around like
can't advertise
pain.
specific ailments or
Yeah,
treatments.
yeah.
So it's like,
It's a little
how do
bizarre.
we,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like, how do
it's
we
hard.
get to people who are searching for a specific thing if I
Right.
can't say the specific thing? Well,
Gotta
you
get
have to
really
search for
creative.
like a symptom of it. So what are the symptoms of the thing you're trying to solve?
Right.
Um, it's a little tricky with health and wellness, but you can, that's another thing. Like Meta just released more restrictions on health and
Yeah.
wellness advertising and what people can track and not track. And it's a lot to kind of like stay up to date on all the changes on the platform side. Like you were saying, like they go in and they make a change and you're like, where's that button that was there
Right.
yesterday? And now,
It was
and there's
right
no like,
here.
yeah, you're like, I swear. And like, there's no email, like, hey, we changed it. There's
I
no like
know.
notification. You just log in and you're like,
Where'd
where'd
it
it go?
go?
Like, how do I find the
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
Um, so like staying up on the changes of the platforms, staying up on the changes on the algorithm, which a lot of times they don't publish.
No.
They almost never publish what their algorithm changes are unless it's like a huge, like probably once or twice a year, Google does a huge algorithm overhaul and like everyone's traffic drops. And we're like, oh, they did something. And then you have to go and like look for the article that
Right.
they've buried on their website. And you're like,
Right.
thanks,
It's like
guys.
the fine
Appreciate that.
print that's like this
Yeah.
big. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
But
and
it's just
yes,
tricky.
and yeah, and all this month, what we've been talking about is marketing is it's all encompassing. It's a lot. It's so
Hmm.
many things. It's not just one thing. And so I really appreciate you sharing your expertise. I've gotten some really, really amazing feedback from the women in our mentorship groups that you're helping. And again, it does take time.
Hmm.
And we as business owners also have a responsibility to kind of know what our goals are. Like, what are our goals? Is it just to get more people on our email list? Because then we can sell to them, right? Is it to get actual people in the door? Like, where is our goal? And I think like you do a really good job of like pairing, helping people one determine their goal and find out where the best place for them to spend their money is, right? And
Hmm.
so can you tell our audience where they can find you in case they want to reach out and ask about your services or just follow you and learn more about you? So where can they find you? Where you most hang out?
So I mostly hang out on Instagram. So my handle there is at Mood MKTG, Mood Marketing. So you can find me there. I'm doing better to be active on my organic platforms because it's like the cobbler's kids have no shoes
Never have shoes.
situation.
Yeah.
So I'm working on being more active there. And also my website is moodmkt.com. fitbiz-e.com. I'll put it all in the show notes when I put
You
those
will put
together
it all in
later.
the show notes when you edit this episode.
Yeah. But I'm basically Instagram and on my website. You can reach out, get in touch if you have any questions. I'm happy to chat through stuff or work with
Awesome.
somebody if
It's
they
so
need
great.
assistance.
I hope you guys reach out to her. Also, if you are part of the inner circle, well, obviously, if you're part of the inner circle, you've already met Courtney, but if you've considered applying for the inner circle, Courtney comes on as an expert coach and talks about ads. She's running ads, helping with ads with a lot of the women in the group. And also, I'm going to bring her in as an expert coach for our community calls, which we do twice a month. So if you're interested in being part of our FitBiz community, that's only $99 a month. $99 a month. You get 2 live coaching calls each and every month. Plus, you get discounts on one-on-one calls. And Courtney hopefully, we'll get you scheduled. What month are we in? Like March or April to do one of the
Yeah.
calls with that FitBiz group. So, and if you're interested in that, you can visit my website at kristagurka.com/FitBiz Foundations. And any parting words, Courtney?
I don't think so. I want you to
Okay.
say your favorite thing.
I know my favorite thing. She's going to hear it live. She hears it all the time. So, okay, everyone, until next time, bye for now.